What's up everyone? Today we're going to be talking about Squad 8.2, which is releasing pretty soon. And if you've been keeping up with my videos, you should know that 8.2 features a bunch of gunplay changes. But first, hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date, leave a like, drop a comment down below with your thoughts on this update, and let's get to it. Let's start with some new weapons added to Squad. First, we have the USMC M39 EMR, which has been teased already. This is going to replace the M38 rifle for the USMC Marksman. Next, the WPMCs are getting an AUG rifle. This is going to replace the M4 Simon offense on the WPMC Rifleman. Now, this is not entirely a new weapon to Squad, as it used to be featured as the F88 on the Australian faction. It was on a single layer, but it's been absent since map voting has been introduced. The US Army is going to get a suppressed version of the M110, which replaces the non-suppressed version for the USA Marksman for light infantry and air assault battle groups. And the Insurgent Mosin Carbine is on its way back, and a new Raider role variant for Insurgents. Now we're on the topic of weapons, it's time to talk about the gunplay adjustments that are happening with 8.2. There were about 5 goals in mind, and we've discussed this a little bit already. First of all, it was make weapons feel more responsive overall. Secondly, reduce punishment in the form of weapon destabilization that players receive after movement. Then it was create more standardized weapon archetypes, which will lead to distinct playstyles for players to master. Next was improve the effectiveness of machine guns when not bipoded. And finally, improve the control of submachine guns at short distances, making them feel more ideal for close quarters and flanking. So I have notes that OWI has shared with regards to what has changed in these families, and I'm going to try to share that as best I can. So we're going to start off with medium machine guns. This includes the M240 family, the PK family, the MG3, or the QJY88. OWI reworked the M240 family recoil and sway to be more controllable, particularly in prone and bipod stances. The medium machine guns should also have a more standardized hipfire to be more controllable than it was previously, along with a standardized ADS speed, equipment movement speed, and reload movement speed to be about 40% of normal movement speed. OWI standardized per stance ADS times to be between 0.3 and 0.75 seconds, depending on stance and optic, while the bipod ADS time is always 0.3 seconds. Not to mention, you should see a slightly increased amount of suppression that medium machine guns can output. Now, weapons in the medium machine gun family should have a standardized time that it takes to stabilize weapons. That may be faster than it was, but it will be slower compared to other weapon types. And finally, you should see an increase in time that it takes a weapon to be automatically put in a lowered position. Next up, we have light machine guns, meaning the M249 family and RPD. The M249 family is going to receive improved MOA, which basically gets into the distribution of rounds and their accuracy. But in terms of values, it's been adjusted from 12 to 6. Next, light machine guns will receive standardized hipfire to be more controllable, and standardized ADS speed, equipment movement speed, and reload movement speed to be about 40% to the 50% of normal movement speed, depending on optic. ADS times have also been standardized, somewhere between 0.3 to 0.55 seconds, depending on stance, and bipod ADS time will still be 0.3 seconds. And much like medium machine guns, the last change was a standardization of the time that it takes to stabilize the weapon. Next up, we have battle rifles, marksman rifles, and bolt-action rifles. This includes the C14, the FAL, the G3, the KNT76, the M110, the M14, the Mosin, the MPT76, the QBU88, and the SV98M or the SVD. That's a lot of names. First of all, they added a new camera shake effect to make the weapons feel more powerful when shooting them. They removed the heavy recoil curve that was present on most battle rifles and replaced it with a standard recoil curve. Recoil configurations for the G3, the FAL, the M110, and the MPT76 are adjusted to be more controllable. ADS speed has been standardized along with equipment movement speed and reload movement speed, which will be 50% to the 60% of normal movement speed depending on the optic. Much like the other two families we talked about so far, the ADS time has been standardized. You're looking at 0.3 to 0.55, whereas bipod ADS is still 0.3. And the time it takes to stabilize the weapon has been standardized to be faster than it previously was. So it'll be faster than machine guns, but slower than your rifles. Battle rifles with foregrips now provide a small benefit to control recoil. And it's worth noting that the G3 damage curve has been slightly adjusted, or more specifically reduced, but will still require whoever you shoot with the weapon to immediately bandage to survive. Now let's talk about automatic rifles. This includes the M27, the RPK, the G3, or the QJB95. A reworked recoil configuration of the RPK family of weapons. They standardized ADS move speed, equipment movement speed and reload movement speed to be 60% to 70% of normal movement speed, depending on the optic. They standardized ADS times, which are now 0.3 to 0.45 seconds, depending on the stance. And of course, bipod ADS is still 0.3. And of course, stabilizing the weapon has been standardized to be faster. It'll be faster than a machine gun, but slower than a rifle. Now, speaking of rifles, let's dive into those. You have the M4 family, the AK family, the L85 family, the EF88 family, the SKS family, and the QBZ95 family. Recoil configuration of the AK family of weapons has been reworked. The standardization of ADS move speed, equipment move speed, and reload movement speed is set to be 60% to 70% of normal movement speed, depending on optic. Your per stance ADS times will be between 0.3 and 0.45 seconds, which will be dependent on rifle length, stance, and optic. And of course, bipod is the same as the other families at 0.3. This will be the fastest group of weapons in terms of their ability to stabilize, other than submachine guns and pistols. The M4 Simon offense is going to perform better in close quarters, but weaker at range than other rifles. That is a reworked configuration, and rifles with foregrips now provide a small benefit to control recoil. Next up, we have submachine guns, which includes the MP5 family, the SAR-109T, the PPSH, or the VZ61. Recoil and sway configurations have been standardized, and they should make these weapons highly controllable. ADS move speed, equipment movement speed, and reload movement speed should be at 90% of normal speed. Standardized per stance ADS times are at 0.2 seconds. And this will be the fastest weapon in terms of being able to stabilize, with the exception of pistols. And with regards to pistols, they should be more controllable with reworked sway. ADS move speed, equipment movement speed, and reload movement speed are to be 100% of normal movement speed. And standardized per stance ADS times are at 0.2 seconds. And this will be the fastest weapon to stabilize. That was a lot of words about a lot of different families of weapons, and I think the important thing to take from it is that there's a lot of standardization. You heard me use that word a lot because it's scattered throughout the notes. That standardization is important to create the archetype mentioned in the goals, basically weapon families, so that when you pick up a rifle, it's going to feel maybe somewhat similar to another rifle. But the rifle should feel different than the machine gun or the pistol. And while it should feel different, it is also going to act different. And this still works within the context of the infantry combat overhaul. This is a combination of standardizing those archetypes that we talked about, as well as refinement or polish to weapons across the board. Just from testing out some of these guns, it seems like some of the ones that I'm most familiar with feel a little bit more snappy when ADSing, and it does seem like for some of those weapons, the recoil does feel a little bit more manageable and consistent. Let's discuss some of the bigger gameplay changes and plenty more that is coming with 8.2. For example, there's going to be a longer respawn delay for main battle tanks from 15 minutes to 20 minutes on all mechanized battle groups except for TLF, IMF, or insurgents. However, you will see a reduced spawn time for transport helicopters from 10 to 6 minutes on all air assault battle groups. The ammo rack on the Canadian Armed Forces Leopard has been moved, now located in the rear of the vehicle, and the size has been reduced to make it less vulnerable. The Turkish Land Forces BMC logistics truck will receive a reduction in supply capacity from 3,000 to 2,000. Mortar emplacements for the WPMC battle groups have been removed. Instead, you will get 2 mortar technicals to each battle group. The PLA and PLA ground forces woodland camouflage has been updated. It is now the newer Starry Sky camouflage pattern. You may still see the woodland option on maps like Goose Bay for winter camouflage, and of course, the Plan MC will still use their blue camouflage. Something else I saw unrelated to these notes was that Red 4 Alliance RGF and VDV battle groups are now going to be voting options for all Sanction Island layers, which I think could give some good variety to the Sanction Islands. Let's talk about some battle group adjustments that's reflected primarily in just vehicle numbers. Some notable changes start with the Australian Defence Force getting an additional ASLAV for the mechanized battle group, whereas the Canadian Armed Forces Armored Battle Group is going to see a reduction of 1 Coyote. The Russian Ground Forces Armored Battle Group will also see a reduction of 1 BMP-1AM, going from 3 to 2. The PLA Armored Group is going to see 2 ZBD-04As removed and an addition of a ZSL. The Turkish Land Forces are going to see their Combined Arms Battle Group have their PARs replaced from M2s to IFVs. The USA Armored Battle Group is going to see a reduction of 1 M7A3. And while the USMC Armored Battle Group is going to see a reduction of 1 LAV-25, their USMC Motorized Battle Group is going to see an additional LAV-25. The PLA Marine Corps Combined Arms Battle Group will see a reduction in ZBDs from 2 to 1, but they are going to gain a ZTD mobile gun system. A larger update would be that the number of wheeled IFVs that spawn in for Australia, Canada, or the USMCs is increased from 2 to 3. And the MEA Combined Arms Battle Group will receive an additional BRDM. It also looks like the USMC got some tweaks. For example, USMC roles no longer use the M27 IAR. Instead, the SL kit will get an M4 with a foregrip, and the AR kit will actually get the M249 with iron sights. It appears that OWI has also updated the USMC Light Infantry Battle Group to represent a more modern USMC setup. So of course there's a bunch of different kit adjustments, including the Grenadier will now have the M320 grenade launcher. There will also be a heavy Grenadier with the MGL, and outside of kits there won't be a tank spawn. The Humvees have been replaced with the MATVs using the same weapon systems, and you will get an extra tow vehicle going from 2 to 3 vehicles total. So as you may have noticed, there's just a lot in these patch notes. I'm trying to cover what I can, and I'm going to continue to highlight some of the things that stand out. And you'll continue to see a mix of battle group adjustments and kit adjustments per faction. For example, the WPMC LAT 02 role is actually going to use the M16 Wormpole instead of the M4 Simon. The USA Grenadier role is going to use the standalone M320 grenade launcher instead of the underslung GL. MEA is getting an additional rifleman role with the G3, and they're also getting a second marksman role, which will use the SVD. The MEA is also getting the KLT, which is an Iranian copy of the AKMS rifle across several kits to replace the G3. And maybe one of the more significant changes is that there's going to be a hat role added to all Turkish Land Force battle groups, making use of the RPG-7 with tandem rounds. Now, something interesting is that the insurgent forces are now renamed to the Middle Eastern Insurgents, which gives us maybe some things to ponder about what could come to squad later. Similar to the Western PMCs, what does this mean going forward when it comes to new factions? Could we see Eastern PMCs, and could we see insurgent forces from other areas? And based off the dev blog featuring Unreal 5, we do know that the insurgents are getting a little bit of a reskin moving forward with Unreal 5. But it also appears like they're getting some updates and added roles and kits. Now with update 8.1, Invasion got some adjustments, and it looks like there may be a few more or some final standardization of the Invasion layers. Looks like overall tickets for capturing flags has been dropped from 130 to 125. It also looks like they've done some balancing with regards to objective placement. The first 2 to 3 objectives are going to be closer to reduce instances where attackers need to maneuver the entire team to set up fobs, whereas the 4th and 5th objectives will generally be more challenging to attack. And it looks like they've also tried to update some invasion layers to have multiple lanes to increase replayability. Like all of the notes I've already shared, there could be changes between this list of notes and what is actually released, so keep that in mind. But there are some bug fixes I want to highlight. For example, adjustments to radio audio to be heard at 50 meters. Fix the audio for the C6 Crow on the Canadian Armed Forces Tab V. And there's some audio adjustments being made to exterior engine sounds. I don't know if this addresses some of the things that we've noticed with vehicles sounding like they're closer or further away, but I guess we'll see soon. Now, one other addition I haven't talked about would be the friends list. I don't know if that is specifically releasing with this update just yet. I know OWI is still working on this update, so as I've mentioned a couple times now, there are some things that are subject to change before the final release of 8.2, which is coming soon. I want to spend the majority of time in this video talking about some of the gunplay adjustments and showing some differences, and I hope that this illustrated some of those changes, at least to some degree. I know we didn't cover every gun, but I was on a pretty tight timeline to get this video available. I think many of you will notice some of those standardizations and some of those small adjustments, especially if you play the game pretty actively. But as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Be sure to like the video and hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on things related to Squad, and I'll catch you guys next time.